Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to Travel and Live Free. In this latest series, I'm going to be talking about my journey to visit every single country in the world. In this video specifically, we're going to talk about country number 4 for me, which is Mexico. Back in 2005, I was only 21 years old, and for my very first real international trip, and when I say real international trip, it's because I haven't really traveled anywhere outside of North America or Asia back then. And so my first trip outside of those regions in the world was actually to Mexico. So Mexico is my country number 4, and it was quite a shock when I went there because the culture was completely different. During my journey to Mexico, I actually went with my mom back then, and it was my first time really traveling with my mother to an international destination. My mother had redeemed some of her air miles towards a G Adventures trip, and it was gonna be, I think, a 7 days G Adventures trip to Mexico. So as soon as our airplane landed in Cancun, which is the launching point of our tour, it was already quite a shock for me because the lineup was huge, it was quite inefficient, and there was tons of Americans lining up, and they were all talking crap about Mexico, which I actually thought was quite condescending of them to do so. But I understood their point of view because seriously, the lineup wasn't moving, and there was even a blackout in the middle of lining up to get through immigration. As soon as we got through immigration, my mom went a little bit crazy because when taxi drivers would approach her to see if she would want to get a taxi to go to our hotel, she would freak out on all of them and keep walking. Eventually, she found one taxi driver that she accepted their offer, and she was paranoid the whole time because she felt like the taxi drivers was going to steal our luggages. Thankfully, she calmed down a bit. I just told her, you know what, just put your luggage in the back seat of the car if you're really paranoid, and hopefully that will make you feel more safe that the luggage will not get stolen. So eventually we managed to get to our hotel, and we did the G Adventures tour briefing, and the following day we went to our first destination, which was Chichen Itza. Now Chichen Itza is the first of the 7 new wonders of the world that I've seen, and back then you were allowed to climb all the way to the top of Chichen Itza. So I was lucky to be able to climb it before they shut it down. And now if you're a tourist and you're going to Chichen Itza, you can only take pictures away from the pyramid. You can't actually climb up. After checking out the Chichen Itza complex, we went to another area where there was a lot of ancient Mayan ruins before heading to our next destination, which is Merida. Now in Merida, we stayed overnight, and my mom again went a little bit nuts because I think it was our second night in Mexico and she was still feeling a little bit paranoid. So every time she saw a Mexican walking by beside us, she would start gunning it and running. And I would just think to myself, don't run, you're gonna attract more attention to yourself, just walk normally. Anyways, after dinner, she did the exact same thing on her way back to the hotel. She was running in the streets at night, and she wasn't running really fast, so if the Mexican really wanted to get us, they would have easily gotten her. So I don't think that was really wise. However, I guess if you are someone that hasn't traveled in Latin America before and you are a little bit on the paranoid side, then perhaps you would react the same way as my mom did. The following day, we went to a cenote nearby, and a cenote is essentially like an underground lake of some sort where you can go swimming. We checked out a few more ruins, and I believe by the following day, we managed to make it to our next destination, which is Palenque. Now, Palenque also has more Mayan ruins, and Palenque was actually pretty cool because the person that was giving us a tour of the Palenque compound told us a story how the Mayans would do magic in the night. Well, the truth was they were actually just doing drugs, and when they were doing drugs, they started hallucinating and seeing things, and they thought they were seeing some kind of magical things unfold, but actually the truth was it was just the effect of the drugs. So that was pretty cool. Later on, we also explored some local cities near Palenque where we ate some local food, and I got to watch telenovela with the locals, and I didn't know exactly what they were saying because I don't speak Spanish, but based on the body language of the show, I got the gist of these drama-filled shows, and I actually loved them. As a matter of fact, looking back in hindsight, I think one of my best experiences in Mexico was actually watching the telenovela with the locals. After Palenque, the next day we went to Tikal, which is actually in Guatemala, and it's technically my country number 5. Now, Tikal was pretty interesting because we had to do a lot of hiking when we got to Tikal. And long story short, my mother didn't actually know when she booked the G Adventures trip that we were going to go on an adventure tour. She probably thought it was going to be like sightseeing in local cities. So she was surprised at all these ancient ruins and hiking that we were doing. And we had about, I think, 8 to 10 people in our tour group, and only 3 of us made it to the top of the hike. And it was these 2 women who were part of the US military. So I actually felt proud of myself that I was able to keep up with them and make it to the top of the hike while the rest of the group had to turn back because it was quite a steep hike. After we finished with Tikal, we headed towards this treehouse accommodation that we're gonna stay at in the middle of the jungle in Mexico. But before going there, we had a stop at another cenote right in the middle of the jungle. And to tell you the truth, this cenote was one of my worst experiences in my life. It was a massive mosquito swarm, and my arms and legs was full of welts, and it was totally not worth it to go swim in that cenote. After that horrific time in the cenote, we got to this treehouse accommodation, which I completely forgot the name of it because when I went there, I was only 21 years old. I'm 35 now as of making this video. And we slept in this treehouse accommodation overnight, which was pretty neat actually. I quite liked it. The next morning, we went on a boat tour to go see the manatees in this lake before heading back to Cancun and going to an island called Isla Mujeres. In Isla Mujeres, our next part of our itinerary was actually going on a sailboat, and the sailboat was going to go around Isla Mujeres, and it was kind of the final hurrah as we finished this tour of Mexico. Unfortunately, after the tour was finished and we head back to the accommodation, my mom fell down the stairs and she got a bump. Now, thankfully, it wasn't serious. Otherwise, I'm not sure how we would have approached this horrible situation. The next day, we went back again to Cancun, and the rest of the tour group disbanded. Some of them flew home, some of them stayed there for a few more days, and we actually stayed for a few more days before flying back to Canada. Now, after going through this trip to Mexico, I soon realized that when you're traveling, you should travel with people that has the same travel style as you. My mother is not an adventure traveler, and as a result, it didn't mesh well with my travel style. Now, back then, I didn't travel that much yet. It was only my 4th country, but I soon realized that after going to a Mexico trip, I would have a lot of fun had I traveled solo or I traveled with friends or family members that likes adventure travel. My mother prefers more easygoing relaxation type of traveling, so that wasn't a good fit for her. So if you travel with my mom, it was probably best to go somewhere more relaxing and easy travel as opposed to going to the jungles of Mexico. Anyways, that's about it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments below. And don't forget to go to the description below and sign up to the Travel and Live Free newsletter, where you can get the 10-step cheat sheet on how to travel around the world, as well as the latest newsletter in my latest travels, as well as travel tips that I can give you to help you travel better, safer, and cheaper. Anyways, I'll talk to you soon. Until next time.